really good to be with you. Those of you in Middleville, join online, those of you in the room, again, if you got a Bible, put your hands on a Bible in some form, a bound copy, a phone, something like that, and start finding John chapter 10. John chapter 10. And we're going to get there in just a second. What I want to do while you're turning there, it's a great story that Jesus tells. Jesus is a master storyteller, and he's really good, so gifted at using analogy to tell the story. And he uses this fantastic analogy in John chapter 10 of shepherd and sheep, and him as the shepherd and us as the sheep. It's just brilliant storytelling to really make his story and his desire for us really accessible and clear and understandable. He's not trying to play a shell game where he's moving things around. He's trying to be very clear about this is what I have for you. While you're turning there, scrolling there on a phone, I want to read you two verses from Psalm 40. This is from Psalm 40. It says this: I waited patiently, written by David, who was a shepherd and then became a king and a leader, all sorts of sin and brokenness, but all sorts of victory in his life. He said, I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and he heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on a rock, and he gave me a firm place to stand. That second verse, he lifted me out, and he set me on someplace firm. That's like a descriptor of Jesus in so many ways. It's like that's what Jesus is great at. If you want to know who the best in the world at pulling people out of something and sticking them on a firm foundation, that's Jesus. You know, you have people in your life who you refer to them as something like, oh man, they're just a great encourager. Or, oh man, they're really good at teaching, helping people understand something. Or man, they're a great driver, or they know how to plan a trip, or they're on your baseball team. You're like, oh man, they've got the best arm, they've just got a cannon, or they can hit the best, or oh man, they're the best dancer, or man, when they walk in the room, they bring peace, or oh, they're the best singer. I mean, there's these things that people like that's them, right? That's them. That's Jesus. People look at Jesus like, I don't even know, but that guy can rescue people. I don't know, but that guy can rescue people, okay? And it's part of who he is, right? He lifted me out of the slimy pit and out of the mud and the mire. David's not describing only a moment. David's describing his life. He pulled me up out of that, and he set me on a firm place to stand. Part of what Jesus is doing in John 10 is really describing that. He's just using a different analogy. He's saying, look, what I really want to do is rescue your life. I want to get you to good places. I want to get you to firm foundations. I won't be able to always remove all of the enemies around, but I want to get you good places. I want to get you what you need. I want to provide for you. He's just changing analogies. So let's look back at this. John chapter 10, again, teaching of Jesus to his disciples and to some people around him, religious leaders and curiosity people and people wondering about Jesus and Roman soldiers probably around. I mean, there's everybody around. And Jesus says, very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, he's going to address them first. Anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. So again, Jesus is going to talk about sheep. That's us. He's going to be the shepherd. He's going to be the guard. He's going to be the gatekeeper. He's going to provide this. But what he says is, hey, just so you know, there are people who climb in another way. There are people who have ideas that are opposite mine. They're going to sound a lot like mine, but they're going to be twisted, and they're not actually mine. You got to be really careful. There's going to be people who come in acting like they want your good, but they don't really want your good. They just want something from you. There's going to be people who climb in, and they don't even try and fake it. They want to destroy your life for their own gain. And part of what I think Jesus starts that way, he leads that, is he's just trying to say, hey, no matter what else I say, what I want you to understand is that danger lurks. As you live out life on this earth, and if you live out life with me, and if you follow me, you just got to understand from the very beginning, danger is lurking. Somebody's going to try and twist your thinking. Somebody's going to try and manipulate it. Somebody's going to try and distract you or dilute it. Somebody's going to try and get you to be half committed to me, not fully committed to me. Somebody's going to try and convince you that you like my forgiveness, but you need to earn it. Somebody's going to try and convince you that I live like not being kind and generous to you. Somebody's going to try and convince you that you're not worth my salvation. You're not worth my love. You're not worth my healing. You're not worth my... Somebody's going to try and convince you. Danger lurks. Danger lurks. And look, it doesn't even matter how long you've been following Jesus. It's not like you follow Jesus for 20 or 30 or 40 years. It's like, no more danger. It's always lurking. And Jesus he's trying to be helpful with this early. Verse 2, the one who enters by the gate, well, that's the shepherd, right, of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. He's going to lead them out of the pen. Now, I want you to jump ahead to verse 9. So you might have to drop down a paragraph or two, or maybe even turn a page. He says this, I am the gate. So Jesus is like, I am the gate too. Like, I'm going to man the gate here. And whoever enters through me, well, that sheep, that person, they'll be saved. They'll be saved from the danger. They'll be saved from themselves. That's who's going to be saved. They will come in and go out, and they will find pasture. They'll find good. They're going to come in and go out, and they're going to experience my goodness. They're going to experience my plenty. Now, here's the thing, this going and coming out. Part of what Jesus first here would have known that's really helpful for us to get an understanding of is that when sheep went in and out of the pen, when they went through the gate, the shepherd would be there, and both coming in and going out, what the shepherd would do is they would have some oil, and that oil was like a concoction of different oils and even some spices and herbs and things that they had gathered, right? And it was always designed for healing. And sometimes, like, the shepherd would put this oil on is a little bit of like a prevention. Like, this oil could help avoid flies and these infestation of flies that would get up in the sheep's nose, and they would burrow their way up into like the front of the sheep's brain. And if that got out of control, like if the shepherd wasn't able to get to that first, it got out of control, literally the sheep would find rocks in the pasture and just beat their head on the rock to try and, like, just because it was so distracting and so annoying. And I'm like, well, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Okay, well, just take it out of the literal for a second. I mean, have you ever figuratively felt like you're just banging your head against the wall? Right? Does somebody you know make you want to bang your head against the wall? Right? Have you ever made somebody else want to bang their head against the wall? I mean, right? Like, we understand, like, the things that just get so annoying, right? They just, and so the shepherd, Jesus, like, if you'll come, like, I want to get this oil on you, and I want to, this oil, man, we can get rid of these flies, the infestation of flies, and we can protect you from more. They would look for skin disease and wounds that they had picked up while they were out. Could just be a cut. It could be a cut that's giving way to an infection. It could be a disease they picked up somewhere when they were out, and this oil would be used to treat that. Like, it's trying to bring healing. It's trying to restore health and restore wholeness. It's really trying to restore also just this ability for the sheep to be calm. It's really trying to restore part of what we just sang about for the sheep. It's trying to restore rest. It's really hard to rest when you're banging your head against a rock. It just doesn't sound restful, right? And Jesus is like, let me just try and restore this for you. Let me try and bring this back. And as your shepherd, and you as sheep, Jesus is like, this is what I want to do for you. I'd like to give you this. I'd like to bring you healing in your coming and in your going. I would like to help you with things that have already happened. I'd like to help you with some things that you might not see coming. I'd like to help you as the seasons change. I'd like to help you as the danger lurks. And so what we find is a couple of things that partly how Jesus heals is Jesus heals with help with the past. Jesus, he wants to look at what has happened to us at the hands of others, or just the hands of life in general, or at the hands of ourselves, what we've done to ourselves. And he's like, hey, I've got some oil for that. I got something that can do that. I've got this death and resurrection thing that I've done that is definitely about your sin, but it is definitely about your whole life. One of the gospel, the biographical accounts of Jesus even talks about when Jesus was heading towards the cross, he was carrying your sin and your sickness. Like both and. Jesus, like I got something I want to do about that. And it doesn't take long, right? If you just do a little, like a survey of your life, you don't have to be very old to start tallying up ways that you've been hurt, overlooked, forgotten, passed over. You've had stray words come your way. You've made decisions that you're still beating yourself up for. And you can live with this reality. Man, I don't deserve that healing. Like I got some forgiveness, and that's kind of it. But Jesus is like, no. I want to heal. I want to heal your past. I want to help you with your past. I want to show you a picture of a wrist. A broken wrist at that. You can see the red circle there where the break is in that picture. That little white thing, it's just a little measurement from an x-ray. But this red circle, you can see these two little bones in the wrist separated. That wrist is of a 13-year-old gal who broke her wrist playing a sport as a 13-year-old. And it swelled up. It was painful, but the first x-ray, it didn't really show anything. They couldn't really see anything, and the pain kind of gradually went away, and so she kept going. But for the next several years, she would have these moments or these experiences where the pain would come back and swelling would come back, and she wouldn't be able to do a certain thing until at one point when she was 20, she heard it really significantly again, and it's like, man, I've gotten to the point where I can't even move it. I can't function with it. And so she started trying to do everything with her other hand because she's like, well, I heard it when I was 13, but it wasn't broken. And so it's like, I'm going to have to learn how to live through some pain and things like that. Eventually, it's so bad that she goes back to a doctor. She's away at university. She tells her parents, I have to do something, right? They're like, yeah, go, please, go. Well, that's fine. Like, go get it. And she goes and she gets this fresh x-ray, and the doctor looks at that x-ray and says, how long has your wrist been broken? And she's like, oh, it's not. I did really injure it when I was 13, but it's not broken. The doctor's like, yeah, you are. There it is. That's broken. That's broken. It had been broken for so long, and the damage was so significant that they couldn't just like reset it or just simply put a pin in it or something. They actually had to take part of her hip bone and fuse it back into her wrist bone to make that thing complete. Completely painful, complex surgery. How'd she get there? Well, because she had a wound that just went unaddressed, overlooked, slightly missed. I mean, yeah, it kind of hurt in the moment, but I recovered, right? Not really. Hey, listen, friends, that's us sometimes. We get some wounds and we're like, oh, I've recovered. No, sometimes we haven't. Sometimes we've just learned to cope really well. Sometimes we've just learned to get by. Sometimes we learn to actually help everybody else in our life cope with us, and then we don't we haven't actually really healed it. And so we start doing things with our other hand. We start doing we start compensating, and we start, right? And here's what we got to understand. Here's why this is risky, and here's why just coping is so risky, okay? It's because, and this is what happened to this girl's life, she started doing damage to other parts of her body, then she's got to have a hip surgery to fix her wrist, right? Here's what happens, unaddressed wounds, they become unintentional weapons. Your unaddressed wounds. You don't want them to, and it is not your intention, but they become unintentional weapons. And the people who experience the brunt of the weapon are the people closest to you. They're the people closest to me. You say, well, John, how would I know? I've taken these steps, and how do I? Okay, listen, we can know two ways. One, we ask. I think the Lord actually wants to make this clear because he's the shepherd. He actually wants to help us in this, right? He's trying to check us in the coming and the going. He's trying to check us over and points out, let me get some oil on that. The second one is you got to ask somebody you really trust and you really love. Hey, is there any place my life feels like more like a weapon to you? Is there any place my life feels like a weapon to you? What's it like to sit across from me? At our workplace or at our dinner table? What's it like to share a car ride with me? What's it like to have an impassioned discussion with me? Is there any place my life feels like a weapon? Hey, listen. Here's what you gotta understand, right? Only the people who love us are gonna have the courage to be honest, right? Everybody else is just gonna keep us happy. That's why it's so important. That's why Jesus is such a good leader here. He's like, hey, while you're coming and while you're going, let me just talk to you about this. Let me do this. I got some oil for that. Jesus wants to bring his healing in part by helping us with the past. Is there any chance? There's some unaddressed or not fully addressed wounds in your life today? From this last week, from the last decade, from the last 3 decades? Is there any place where there's a chance? You got 90% healing, but there's a 10 you haven't really been willing to address or fully let go of. Is there any place you're compensating and you're limping and you're using the wrong hand and you're inflicting pain on the people that you love the most? Not because you want to, but because the wound is speaking louder than the love. Jesus wants you and I, we don't have to settle for coping. You and I don't have to settle for carrying that bitterness or carrying that hurt or carrying that wound or carrying that curse or carrying that lie. We don't have to settle for that. Look at John 10:4. Back a little bit from verse 9. This is what Jesus also says. He says, when he's brought out all of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. He's bringing them all out. He gets them all out, and he goes ahead of them. Why is Jesus going ahead of them? Jesus, as a good shepherd, including as a healer, he's leading them to the best places to find nutrients, to find water, to find refreshing, to get rest. He's taking them to the best places to experience more healing and to get fully healthy. He's taking them to the best places to regain their strength and to get back to full vitality. Jesus is not only interested in helping with our past, he also heals by bringing a hope for our future. He's like, let's go somewhere. Let's go somewhere. If you want a little window into what some of the wounds that impact us are, or some of the lies we believe that become wounds, they're found underneath phrases that start with, I could never. I could never do that. I could never experience that. I could never deserve that from Jesus. I could never be part of that. I could never make a difference like that. I could never receive that. I could never be valuable like that. I could never. What is the I could never phrase littered with? What's it colored with and packaged in? A lack of hope for a future. So much like we start coping with living with this weapon, and we're trying to rein it in, maybe we see the weapon, we're trying to rein it in, but we can't quite, right? And Jesus wants to heal the past. Then we also start coping with living with less of a future than Jesus is trying to give us. And Jesus says, no, look, I'm going to lead you out. Let's go. I'm going to lead you out of the sheep pen. I'm going to get you this oil. I'm going to get you the healing ointment of my presence. My presence is just going to be draped over you and poured over you, because with my presence comes healing and just the right amount of care and just the right type of care and just the right amount of presence and just the right words. I'm going to give you that, and a lot of times I'm going to give it to you through other people. A lot of times I'm going to give it to you through my scriptures. A lot of times I'm going to give it to you through moments with me. I got this combination of things that can be a concoction of medicine and healing for you. And I'm going to lead you someplace good. I'm going to lead you someplace good. There are very few things that cause us to miss God's future best more than unresolved brokenness and damage that we just live with because we think we have to, or because we're not willing to get some help seeing it. Here's the way we could look at it if we just took that and we sandwich it together a little bit, is that Jesus doesn't just provide healing for past damage. He also prepares for coming danger. Jesus is doing both. He's taking care of this past damage. He's trying to take care of this coming danger. He's trying to heal in a way that strengthens and builds up and fortifies and protects. Remember, the oil can get rid of the flies that have already settled in, and it can protect from the flies that are still out there somewhere. It can heal from the wound and the skin disease that is set in somehow, and it can protect from the new one that's lingering out there somewhere. Why? Because danger always lurks. Stray words, lies, deceptions, disappointments, betrayals, losses. They lurk. They're out there. They're coming. And Jesus let me bring some healing. Let me bring some healing for past damage. Let me just prepare you for some future danger. Here's the question for us today. It's really simple and clear. Here's the question for us. If Jesus really wants to heal, do we really want to be well? And will we take the healing? That question of do we really want to be well, that's not my question. It's a question Jesus asked a guy in John chapter 5 who had been sick for a really long time. And before Jesus healed him, Jesus just needed to get to the core of the issue for a second. He just said, hey, do you want to be well? Do you want to be well? And some of us be like, well, of course I want to be well. What kind of question is that? Do you want to be well? Is it possible that we've become so comfortable with our damage that it's hard to imagine living without the damage? Is it possible we've gotten so good at protecting a wound, it's hard to imagine a life without using the energy to keep protecting that wound? Is it possible that sometimes we might actually like being the victim more than the victor? Is it possible? Is it possible that we don't want to get too excited about being well because we're not too sure Jesus would actually ever do that for us? I get that. I get it. The question is, if Jesus is good shepherd that he portrays himself as, if Jesus is great at rescuing people, like David said in the Psalms, if he's great at rescuing people, do you want him to pull you out of some of the wound and the damage and the hurt today, and would you let him? Would you let him? I hope you will. I think he's designed today for you to experience that. I think he scripted today and put it together and for you to experience that. I think he designed it for people like you and me. So what would it mean? Well, let's just talk about it in a couple ways quickly. Number one, it's a big day. We've talked about it. Mother's Day comes with all sorts of emotions, and some of them are so great. For those of you who are celebrating your moms or the legacy from your mom, or you're celebrating motherhood and all that goes with it, that is amazing. Thank God. That is awesome. That is awesome. For those of you who are grieving the loss of your mom too soon, for those of you who are grieving both what the relationship is or was or what it could have been. For those of you who are grieving loss you experienced as a mom. You have been on the unfathomable road of grief, of having to say goodbye to your kids before they said goodbye to you. It's beyond explanation. Some of you are in the longing of just wanting to have children. And you've been on that journey for 4 or 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 or 16 years. And days like today, what they do is they just stir the pot of pain and disappointment for you. And what if in some category of that, Jesus would just want to bring some healing today? What if Jesus would just want to put some oil on? And hey, guys, that's you too. That's you too. Maybe you didn't have a great relationship with your mom. Maybe you're grieving a recent loss of your mom. Maybe it just wasn't what it could have been. Right? And what if Jesus would just want to heal in that today? What if Jesus would want to just heal something physical for you today? Why not? It's interesting that the examples of healing in the Bible include a lot of things, including physical healing. Can't deny it. Can't look at it, say it's not there. It's over and over and over and over again. Even the person that Jesus said, do you want to be well? Man, he does some emotional, mental work and some physical work in one moment. What would you like to be healed of? What would you like to be healed of? Jesus can do that. He can do that. Maybe there is some emotional, mental healing that needs to happen. Maybe there is a wound you're carrying, a word or a phrase that was said to you, never should have been said about you or to you. Maybe it was said for a long portion of your life. Maybe you've been overlooked, betrayed, pushed away by somebody. And maybe you'd say, man, I really want to know healing there. And if that especially, like if these are you, like if there's just something in you, it's like, I know there's more health there. I know there's more healing there. Today, I want to invite you to pursue it. I want to invite you to go get it. I want to invite you to go to a shepherd who describes himself and paints himself as a healer, a rescuer, somebody who's really good at pulling people out. Really good. That's what Jesus does. He's really good at this stuff. Best there is. Best there is.